Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 7. So firstly, I just want to say that I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. They had a good time with family and friends. And if you want a celebrator of Christmas and all that, hopefully you're having a nice holiday period, whether it's come to an end or even if it's just beginning. I know some different cultures and holidays, I think, start on Christmas or just after Christmas. But anyway, regardless, hopefully you had a good time now or then. But heading into the newest season of The Flash, which is now under 2 months away from now. It's not far away. You know, things are going to start rolling along and all of a sudden it's just going to be on our screens. It's only 2 months away from now, but we do know about one antagonizing threat for Barry and the rest of Team Flash that they will be dealing with after the Mirror Master arc concludes or wraps up early in the season. And that is, of course, Godspeed, who had showed up here and there in Season 6, but Season 7 will be the time where he will, appear consistently throughout a good chunk of the season. Now, Godspeed, whoever it may end up being, has been the only major threat mentioned, which has led many to believe they will be the main threat for the season, even though Eric Wallace, the showrunner for The Flash, hasn't been overly specific and confirmed that exactly. But seeing that it appears there will be 15 episodes after the Mirror Master arc finishes early into Season 7, it would be not too crazy to think or guess that there will be someone or something else to, test Barry and the others, whether that is before or after Godspeed. Now, in this video, we're going to cover a potential villain for the upcoming season that could come up, that could come after Godspeed, that many think would be a cool character and threat to introduce for the Flash to take on, especially if they do go down the path where Godspeed actually ends up helping Team Flash come the end of the season, take down a more dangerous threat, with this villain being that bigger and more dangerous threat. And this villain is the character of Paradox. And no, this has nothing to do with the Flashpoint storyline, like Flashpoint Paradox. This is just a character called Paradox, even though you could argue there's some similarities or some similar things going on. So we're just going to go over briefly who Paradox is within the DC Comics universe and his connections to the Flash within that, and then go over how they could implement and use him on the TV side of things as well. So Paradox in the comics was formerly a guy called Chris. Now, this, Chris being his name, is of little importance for the most part on the show. If they use him, they can go with whatever name they want to, in my opinion. Chris being Paradox isn't as important as Clark Kent being Superman, Bruce Wayne being Batman, Barry Allen being the Flash, etc. They can call him Banana Jim, Francis, Aubameyang, whatever they want to call him, it'll work. And also, it would maybe keep it a bit more mysterious on the show if he is coming, if they avoid any name drops of Chris, because there'll be no, connection to Paradox there. Now, the artist formerly known as Chris was obsessed and had theorized about the possibility of alternate realities, universes and timelines, with himself spending years dedicating most of his time trying to prove it, along with also proving that reality itself around him and everyone else was changing due to other events going on in the DC universe that would be triggering those reality changes. Now, Paradox is another villain that has a connection to the night Barry Allen got his powers, like Godspeed in the comics. For those that don't know, Godspeed or August Hart saw Barry get struck by lightning, and there's another connection here with Paradox. So there's a possible connection for the show that they could go down if they want to. Anyway, so the night that Barry was struck by lightning and got his powers, the surge from all of that went and hit Chris, aka Paradox, while he was working with various things around him, like chemicals and stuff like that, and tech. And it allowed the time stream to flow through him, giving him the view of the multiverse for a temporary amount of time, eventually passing on. Now, due to it passing on, this caused him to work tirelessly to get access to the multiverse again someday, somehow, because it connected to all this stuff he'd been theorizing, and he was seeing proof of it all. So he was like, I got to see it again. I got to get access to it again. He just became obsessed with it. Now, the event or circumstance that turns, Chris into Paradox was when the Flash was taking on the Turtle. I'm sure most of you guys remember the Turtle. He was versing the Turtle. And obviously we know those two characters' powers, what they do, and them coming head to head could create a situation. This situation was very similar to the night of when Chris saw the multiverse for the first time. Obviously, he had been obsessing over it, as we just were talking about, so he would remember it exactly and what it looked like and various things like that. Now, due to the weird time stuff going on in this battle and Chris being close to it, when the Flash shifts forward to go back to normal time, just shifts that bit forward, Chris actually gets left behind in like a weird area that actually exists outside of the multiverse, known as the Realm of the Forgotten. And this whole process as well even activates his power set at the same time, turning Chris into Paradox. So that's actually how he becomes this Paradox being, or gets the abilities to eventually become Paradox, and how he looks eventually. Now with these powers, Paradox is actually pretty damn overpowered. He can like alter events from whenever they occurred across multiple universes, across the multiverse. He actually gets more and more powerful by the more changes and paradoxes that he causes, fitting with the name of Paradox. And along with getting more power through these things, he just becomes very strong and hard to take down, growing in size and all of that. I'm sure you've seen throughout the video what he looks like. He's a big boy. Now, throughout his arc in the comics, he actually takes control of Godspeed and uses him to do some stuff, shall we say. I won't say what it is specifically, as it could be used on the show, and it would be very cool if they did it. You should be able to Google probably like the storyline and stuff, or exactly what happens, or just type in Paradox Godspeed and it might tell you exactly what happens there if you really want to know. But I'm not going to spoil it here because it would be cool if they did it on the show and it would surprise people. But it involves Godspeed, that's all I'll say. And once again, the takedown of Paradox by the Flash is assisted by Godspeed, which I've already alluded to earlier, so that's not a spoiler, as well as another interesting character. Whether they use this other character on the show, if Paradox is used as a villain, is another question in itself, but it would be like an awesome team-up moment for fans of the show, especially if they even add some more characters here and there than what the comic story used. The comic story is limited in regards to the characters that are used, but maybe the TV show could go all out and have more than the ones that are in the comic. That's all I'll say. Now, the things that they could do with the show to sort of connect this with Paradox is, as I was saying, Paradox sort of like uses and controls Godspeed to do some stuff for him, which we won't go into detail as to what it is in the comics. But as we know in the TV show, there's been like these weird things with Godspeeds, like clones and everything like that. How do we know this isn't like Paradox doing it? Maybe Paradox has Godspeed under his control and he's able to do these different clones. And they might not necessarily be clones. They just could be various versions of Godspeed from the timeline, or even Godspeeds from the multiverse, that are sort of like messed up from Paradox controlling them or him, and he's sending them to do some stuff to, mess with the Flash and everything like that. That would be a very cool way to tie it into some stuff we've seen in season 6. Obviously, there's not a massive hint as to who Godspeed is working for, or if he is working for anyone specifically. He just says them, like he says like a plural, so make of that what you will, but they could connect it to Paradox eventually, and it could be this bigger villain, which would be pretty damn interesting in my opinion. Now, one thing that would make Paradox quite a threatening villain is his power set, but also just his knowledge. Paradox would know everything that has come before, that's coming in the present, and that is coming in the future in multiple realities, timelines, and universes. He would know everything about everyone, stuff they might not want out there in the public, and he can just see the future as well. He can just see what's coming and various outcomes. It's like Doctor Strange on crack, if you know what I mean. So it could be very, very cool, but also very, very threatening, and also very, very difficult for Barry and Team Flash and whoever the Flash teams up with to try and take down Paradox in a certain way. The way they do it in the comic is the easiest way to do it. Now, once again, I won't spoil it unless you want to read it up yourself, but hopefully you just will go with the flow, and hopefully they do it on the show. But the way they do it in the comic makes sense, and it's the way they should do it on the show. But it would take some time to think of that and exactly where Paradox came from before they could go about doing that. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it and how quick they would get to that conclusion. Now, one thing that'd be fairly cool if they didn't want to go a straight up origin from the comics like they do, because it might be difficult to do that. They might want to keep it a bit mysterious, maybe not connect it directly to the Flash, like say, Chris walking up, or whoever it is, a Bamyang walking up to the Flash, and like during the time thing, there's a weird thing going on there. They can avoid that. And one way they could do that is actually tying it to Crisis. There's been I don't want to say an outcry, but there's been people asking, will there be more things tied to Crisis? Now, we know the villain from Superman and Lois is meant to be tied to Crisis and certain things there, so maybe they could do it with Paradox. I think it would actually make sense. I think it's the one that actually makes the most sense to tie this character to Crisis, and him being like displaced due to what's going on, and he gets put in this area outside of the multiverse, but actually can see everything that's going on, and through this gains weird abilities, and through all the changing stuff gets more powerful. I think that would actually be a very, very cool way to put Paradox onto the TV show, is actually tie him into Crisis and just make him this displaced person. Now, that makes it a bit more difficult whether they'd actually make him an identity. They could just make him this mystery person that just got messed up during Crisis, but maybe they can make it a bit more sentimental where it is like a doppelganger from another Earth or something like that. There's different routes they can go, but I think tying it to Crisis would be a very, very cool idea. But yeah, that's pretty much all to talk about in regards to Paradox. But if you do want to read him up in the comics, you can. It's not that hard of a read. It's a fairly interesting storyline, or you can just read up his quick storyline on Google. I guess just type in Paradox the Flash and it should come up, or Paradox the Flash Rebirth and it should come up. But yeah, I think it'd be a fairly cool idea to have him on the show. And you could do some various little things like there. And it also ties in with the Godspeed thing, in my opinion. You can really work it in there really well. So I'd love to see it. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on this. Would you like to see Paradox in the show? Or do you think he sounds lame? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm always curious. And if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.